Welcome to Deep Thought. Always do a deep dive into anything you truly want to understand. Always do a deep dive. Look, I don't care what it is. And it could be anything. It could be how the behavior of ants. It could be how the weather is different clouds. It could be into different groups of people, whatever. Whatever it is, do a deep dive. Don't try to just understand it on the surface. Don't think you understand it on the surface, because I don't care what it is, whether it's people, whether it's nature, whatever. There's always deeper understandings. It could be how animals hunt. It could be how a particular animal hunts. You know, why they hunt in a particular area. How do they hunt? You know, it could be into how groups of people behave, why they behave a certain way, you know, why they do stuff the way they do. You know, just don't go on the surface like, oh, these groups, they do this or they do that. It was like, okay, well, what else is happening? What environment are they in? You know, you got to look at stuff on those bases. You got to do a deep dive. When I say a deep dive, you got to look at all angles. Even, I'm going to tell you what, whenever I look at something, I don't care what it is, whatever idea I have. Like if I come up with something, I want to understand something, not only look at what's speaking positively about it, but also the negative side. I will look at all sides of something to really understand it, to understand how it's seen. Like if you want to understand why a person's doing something, you need to not just look at the positive reasons why they're doing something, but who are they responding to? You might need to look at where they live at. They might be behaving a certain way because they live in a certain area. How did they come up? What was their family? You got to look at a lot of stuff. I don't care who it is. And that's one thing I found. Whether if I'm dealing with particular people, yeah, they might be acting a certain way towards me, but where did that come from? And you know, there's been some cases I would talk with some people, and they'd say, well, this happened to me in childhood, you know? And then even that could go back even further, you know? Why groups of people behave in a certain way. Why they doing some of the things they doing. It's never on the surface. You always have to ask why. And then that's when you understand something. Any phenomenon. Why is this phenomenon happening? You know? And I mean, I don't care what it is. You want to understand anything, any person, any phenomenon, you got to look at all angles. You know? You might have it could be anything. It could be the economy. Why is the economy the way it is? A lot of people don't do a deep dive into it, and they can't figure it out. They go by what people saying on the surface. Oh, they not buying this particular product. Okay, why not they buying this particular product? You know? You know, how many people would buy that product? Who would get into it? You got to look at it from different angles. A lot of people don't do that. You know, deep dive, I don't care what it is. If you want to understand it, now if it's something that, you know, you like so about, okay, I can understand if you don't do a deep dive into it. But if it's something affecting your life, you know, if it's something that's touching you in some way, you got to look at it at all angles. I don't care, even if on the surface. I'll give you an example. I pay close attention to deeper stuff regarding YouTube. I trust me, I pay attention. Yeah, I'm making good money with it and everything. But then I'm looking at the overall economy and I'm thinking to myself, okay, how can this affect what I'm doing? How can this affect my money? You know, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at, you know, the people. I'm looking at the people who might check out different stuff. It was like, well, okay, if they don't have money, they don't watch. If they don't have watch, you know, I don't make as much money from the commercials and everything, from the advertisements. You know, I'm paying attention to that. If I don't make that much from the advertisements, or the people, or they ain't being watched, then, you know, the people advertising, they're like, well, shit, I ain't making money this way. I could be affected. So even though I'm not affected right now by the overall economy, I'm looking at all angles of it, because that could affect me. I want to understand that. I want to know. I want to know if something happening in another country could possibly affect me here. I'll be paying attention to all of that. That's what you have to do. Now, it takes a lot to see everything, but you want to pay attention enough to see what's going on, especially when it touches your life. You know? You could be a truck driver or something. What if someone, like near me, there's a big department store. One of their locations is closing. All right. How could that affect somebody who might drive there or deliver stuff to that particular store? How might that affect, a business that sells clothes or products at that particular store? Because if you have one, you got to look at the other. So it's like, and that's talking about economics and stuff, but then why are people behaving, looking at it differently? What's the environment like and everything? You have to dig deep. Stuff is really, why are people behaving, why a particular person's behaving. Let me bring it back to a particular person. You might meet somebody, a potential mate or something, they behave in a certain way, all right? And if it's not affecting you, okay, fine. But if it is affecting you, okay, what's the deep thing? In fact, that's what a therapist will do, psychologists will do. They'll get deep into why somebody's thinking a certain way, doing something of that matter. I don't care what it is. Now, like I said, it has to be something that you truly want to understand. You can't just look at it on the surface and say, oh, okay, this is what it's going to be. No. You got to look at it from all angles. You got to look at it. And especially, and I would just say this. Try to understand anything. Well, really, not even anything. Everything that touches your life directly. Try to understand, why are people in your neighborhood behaving a certain way? It could be the neighborhood, Try to understand. It could be their economics or something. I don't know. You need to understand, why is stuff happening, It might not touch you directly, but it could have an indirect effect on you. You need to look at it. And I don't care. It could be something mechanical. Why is this working a certain way? Because you need to understand it. All right? But you always have to do a deep dive. You can't just look at it on the surface. Nothing is as it appears on the surface. It had something got it to that point. You have to do a deep dive if you want to really understand it. You want to know what it's doing. I don't care what it is, all right? Just always do a deep dive into anything you truly want to understand. Just remember that. Think on that, and I mean, as the best as you can. Like, if you're trying to understand a person, they might not tell you some stuff, but let's understand this. There's some deeper stuff there. Like if you're trying to understand a particular person in your life and they ain't sharing, look at around them. Where do they live? If you've been over their house, whatever. If somebody's trying to understand me, I'm quite sure I've had plenty of people try to go through, like, zoom in on the books behind me that they can see. There's still some that y'all can't see. But always do a deep dive, all right, into anything that you're trying to understand. So anyway, that's all I have for today. Think on this. Peace and blessings, everyone.